This is True Buzz, that Mary J. Now we ain't new to this. For my stoners and for my cannabis enthusiasts, never heard a show as good as this. Number one, it's the best. Bringing in many special guests in the industry of cannabis. Business owners to growers, even artists you know of. So sit back and just roll up. Perfect show for my smokers. True Buzz, hey.
Welcome to the True Bud Show podcast, my friends. It's your host, it's your buddy, Jack Woltering here. And we're doing it right today. You can look right down here if you're watching. We got Unrivaled in the building.
Let's go.
Oren Schauble, president.
Yeah, pleasure to be here.
Hey.
Excited to talk.
Happy to have you, man. I wrote a little down so I don't forget it because you guys are doing some super cool stuff. So Unrivaled is a vertically integrated California-based MSO that prides itself on maintaining its roots and building brands for the cannabis consumer. The company has operations in California, Oregon, and Nevada, and is home to brands such as Korova, Sticks, Flower Shop. Flower Shop is one of the brands, or is that a distribution?
Yeah, so we have brands we own, Korova and Sticks, like you mentioned, another brand called Cabana, and then brands we distribute. We kind of have like a accelerator, for lack of a better word, and that has Flower Shop, Habit, Humble Farms, Life, a whole bunch of brands.
Yeah, the Cabana looked really dope. Those pre-rolls, right?
Yeah.
Super premium pre-rolls.
Yeah, it's like the premium pre-roll in Oregon, and they're super, like small batch, really specific, has a really unique tube that they come in and out of, and it's a really popular product in that market. We have them in California too, but so it's a little bit different, but yeah.
Yeah, had me wanting to sit on the beach and smoke one, just looking at it.
Catch a vibe, let's go.
So yeah, I just look forward to talking to you, man, about, what it takes and how you even go about setting up an MSO powerhouse, how you find these brands, how you, build them. Because I know I was talking right before this started, Korova, just an OG in the game. And I'm excited to, start talking about that. And just, I know you have a history too in marketing. You've worked in the beverage world with marketing. Then you worked for the firearms.
Exactly. Yeah. So I've been in kind of controlled products, for a long time. So that spanned from alcohol, firearms. I was actually working in consumer and enterprise drones for a while. But anything that has that extra layer of regulation is sort of my specialty. And because you can't market things the same way, there's all these kind of rules around it. And so I've just kind of gone industry to industry within that. But it all has that same kind of trend, which I just find fascinating. It's like it's an extra level of challenge. It's an interesting particular skill set.
I love that, and I the creativity that goes with that too.
Yeah.
Because I'm always thinking cannabis is like this, but I forget about these other industries like alcohol and the gun industries too that are just same model in a way. So how long let's I guess kind of take it back a little bit. How long when was your start to cannabis and how did you fall in love with it?
So I came into this particular business about 3 years ago. I've smoked cannabis since I was younger. I grew up in Hawaii where it's almost ubiquitous, right? But never thought in a million years this would be something I'd actually be working in or working in the industry. And I kind of saw it growing over time. Some of my friends had started a company called Letterman in Oregon, and maybe 5 years ago, and I was kind of watching them grow. At the time, they were forming that. I had thought about kind of jumping in the mix with them then, but I just had my son had just been born. So I was
Congrats.
like, all right, isn't the time for a big change? Thank you. And I kind of watched what they were building as they began to get bigger. It kind of became obvious. I was like, hey, this industry is, even from where it's at now, 5 years, 10 years in, it still has so far to go. And I was like, this is something that I'm both personally passionate about, I think is going to change the world. And, just want to make sure I could, get in the mix, really, be a part of making sure that that's done in an interesting and authentic way and, and be passionate about. Because that's the biggest thing when you're finding a vocation, right? Is what gets you excited to go to work every day and talk about things.
Hell yeah. Yeah, I'm the same way. That's why I was like, I love cannabis. And that's how I started doing content and stuff. I was like, I love film. I love cannabis. Let's do it now. And now I'm deeper in the trenches, doing a sales deal with it. So now in your consumption, I know you got all different types of products. I'm excited to dive into some of these I haven't tried before. Do you have a preferred method you like to do most of the time?
I really like drinks. I don't drink any alcohol. And so I've been, it's not the biggest category, but I tried through a lot of the beverages. I really like the Wonder drinks. They have like a Delta 8 and THC version that I really like. And I also like the tinctures and the shots. We have a product, one of the ones we have up here called the Black Bottle. That's it's 1,000 milligram tincture, but it has CBN in it. It's just a great sleep aid. And I just, I've really found that as a great like natural version of sleep. But honestly, I consume kind of across categories, and I feel like, especially when you're in the industry or when you're involved in purchasing decisions for a dispensary, you kind of have to really be in the mix and understand what that experience is. Otherwise, you're picking things for consumers that you might not understand.
Yeah, and that's a very interesting point. And there's so much in the market,
so much,
and it's like. And that's where just talk about beverages for a second too, because that's kind of been my world for the past year. It's a really interesting time too for the cannabis beverage world. But I'm the same way. I like it all. I believe in having like an arsenal, if you will, kind of like set up like this. Like, what am I feeling to do today?
I think beverages is interesting because it's almost like a Trojan horse in that I don't know, you look at, you have to buy everything through a dispensary now. Beverages aren't naturally made for dispensaries. A lot of them don't have a lot of space. It's not something you're casually buying, like a 6-pack of something on your way out for a night. You're stopping by the dispensary. But when eventually I could see that really easily being sold in grocery stores or liquor stores or in existing infrastructure in a way that it would be harder to be selling concentrates or kind of other categories. And so I think that's a really interesting one that, when we look at where does cannabis live beyond the dispensary world in 10 years or 15 years, I think beverages is going to be a big part of that. And especially with multiple cannabinoids, or it's Delta 8 or, CBD and THC. And that's just fascinating to me. It's still super early. They're only like 2% of the mix of what we sell in our stores currently, but I'm excited about it and excited about those ideas.
For sure. And I'm excited to see what happens when it does grow out, because I have the same thought. I'm like really just paying the dues right now to understand that world.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's an interesting time, man. Now tell me a little bit about your guys' flour, because that's what I've had the most. The Korova Flour. I was smoking, I believe it's garlic cookies last.
Nice.
So you're all vertically integrated in-house there?
We are. We haven't always been. So basically, when Korva Flour started, we had some partners who grew just for us. And, we eventually this was at the very early part of when, legalization happened. It was one of the first packaged flower brands on the market. And then I think when some of those growers for us began to start their own brands, we kind of had a storied history of, all right, we have these partners, we've moved in and out of them. And then we recently vertically integrated again about mid last year, got our own grows, up and running. So now we have 2 grows in Oakland, California, which is where kind of Korova initially started. It was in the Vallejo, Oakland area. And we just really focus on, high potency strains. High potency is kind of Korova's core value proposition is, hey, kind of no matter what form factor we have, we're going to be pushing the limits on potency. But also we, try to really keep a mix of interesting strains inside of our jars. So we have 2 lines. We have the just standard Korova jars, and we have what's called the Unrivaled line, which is either, really high percent THC or really kind of high terp content. So we kind of focus on the higher end there. That's what you see in the box. One thing we did recently that was really interesting on the flower end is we did a collaboration with a local grower in NorCal where it was all landrace strains, so kind of original sativa strains like chocolate Thai, lamb's bread, Durban poison, some of these kind of originals, because classic strains are kind of hot in the market right now, and we found this really unique grow, and so we were able to kind of take this concept and bring it out to market, a little bit of a different look on the jar, and consumers really loved it. So it's not just, hey, we're putting the strains we grow into the jars, we're trying to do interesting things that play into what's happening in the times, or a new experience for the consumer, something exciting when you walk into the dispensary. It's like, all right, everyone's always asking, what's new on the shelf or what should I try? We want to give budtenders a reason to recommend Korova.
Hell yeah. And that makes me so happy that you guys are doing that, because those old strains are hard to come by. And having, a company as prominent as yourself, producing those is big, because, I know potency is really important, and that's a big focus of your guys' stuff, but I like how you said the terpene aspect as well. And I have had, what is it, the 1,000 milligram brownie you guys used to do? You guys still do those, right? But it's just Delta 8.
Exactly. That's that package right over there on the right. It's the Delta 8. So we call it the biggie cookie now versus it used to be the black bar. So it's 1,000 milligrams THC. This is it's kind of a workaround for now. And Delta 8 is obviously a very different compound, but we still do that. But in Arizona and Oklahoma, we still have the black bars, and now an ultra black bar, which is 2,000 milligrams. And those are really, that's a certain type of customer. A lot of it's for medical patients who really just need the maximum amount of pain relief. We kind of cross over that halfway between the lifestyle customer who's really interested in Korova, what we stand for, and the interesting things we're doing, and then the high potency consumer that is really looking for it for pain relief in their day to day.
Yeah, I'm kind of in the mix there myself when buying it, because I do love the high potency, and I see that value there, because I'll buy RSO every now and then and stuff like that, and the tincture too. I actually haven't had your guys' tincture, so I'm excited to try that.
It's a nano tincture. I'm really fascinated with the nanotechnology, and for I guess those who don't know or listening, it's rapid onset, so 15 minutes you're kind of really feeling the high, and so we had done this. I guess that technology hasn't been explained super well to people who understand, I have to wait 60 minutes. I don't know how high I am. I really like that controllable experience. And some of those that come on these rapid onset nano emulsified products, they'll come on too fast. They'll go too slow. We kind of worked hard to formulate like the right thing for that black bottle. And now we've actually brought it to, we did 1,000 milligram hot sauce was like our seasonal product for the winter.
Good work on that.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I've seen that all on social. I'm like, I was talking in a podcast the other day. I'm like, you guys, the whole launch of that was amazing. So
Well, it was just kind of natural in that, like, we're looking at it. What's a product? We always ask, what's a product we would use ourselves? We have like one of the Korova taglines is if we don't smoke it, you don't smoke it. And, and it goes the same for edibles and things too, is like, what would excite the team? I know for that one, like I use that product all the time. It's great. It's like easily dosable. It's the right amount of things. It tastes great. There's like a Tapatio-ish version, and so it's funny to see how natural that kind of, went. People gravitated towards it. They used it. So you go, hey, this is actually an experience. By the end of my meal, I'm high. I'm ready for the next thing. It's interesting.
And I think what set it off for me too is because I've seen other people, do hot sauces, but not like you guys did.
Yeah.
So it just I need to try it, but I'm just like super pumped when I saw that. Like I said, just the look of it, everything about it is super clean.
Yeah,
man.
I was gonna say I wanted to bring one today. We sold out of the run that we had just done, so they're in stores still, but our wholesales. We were surprised. That was one where I was like, especially at the first week or two, everyone's like hot sauce, and then now it's like 6 weeks later, it's like all right, it was into it. So I think we're trying to spin out a new flavor for 420. We'll see if it happens.
Oh, no, I'll definitely
keep an eye
grab
out.
that up because it's just like a staple to have in your pantry.
Yeah,
just have your little infused hot sauce, whatever
and
else you got.
Lasts for a long time. It's interesting, and that's rapid onset too. So it's like it's interesting to be able to say, all right, especially with food, you're always like, well, what's my dosing like? I really love just knowing where you're at, especially with something like a hot sauce, where it's like, I'm 15 minutes in, okay, I'm feeling good. Oh, I need a little more. Okay, it's too much. Like that's a big part of controlling the cannabis experience.
And that's why I do love the Nanotech too, because I'd be talking to people and like you're saying, people get worried about edibles, like, nope, never doing them again. Or I'm so scared. I'm like, the beauty of the drinks or tinctures is you can literally take it little sip by sip or drop by drop, like you're saying, to feel the right effects. And I think that's the beauty of it too. Whereas, people who smoke sometimes, if they have even a couple puffs, like my girl will just kind of get a little
too much.
little loopy out there.
I think that's where the future goes, is that half the experiences will be more experimental. Like, hey, I just want to have a good time. Whatever happens, happens. I'm gonna smoke some flower. And the half of it's just gonna be super controllable. Like from a wellness perspective or a pharmaceutical perspective, it's like, this is the right dose. This is the right dose for me based on my tolerance or body composition or whatever the science leads it. I think that's kind of what we see in 20, 30 years. That's a big part of the excitement, is just seeing this industry is so much more encompassing than, if you look at like the alcohol industry is essentially for pleasure, right? But the cannabis industry is for pleasure, for just overall holistic wellness, and for pharmaceutical medical conditions. And that's just like, what other thing is so broad reaching and can impact, so many different people. It's really exciting.
Yeah, that's so true. And I will just do a little shameless plug here with this koan, man, where precision calibrated cannabis. But when we're talking about the precision of having and knowing what you're getting is really important. And that nanotech, and I felt bad because I took one. If you want one, feel free to grab one. I got another type for you.
Yeah,
too.
Maybe after the after the pop. You said those are 6 milligrams.
Yeah, these are 6 milligrams. We have Calm that's like 1 milligram THC, 15 milligrams CBD, and just really playing in with the terpene profile. So we'll do test groups and send them like 5 different bottles with different terpene counts and get feedback from, let's say, the group of 30, see what they think, formulate it that way, because I never realized how important terpenes are until the past couple years. For the longest time, just growing up in illegal states, Jersey and Kansas, I would just be like, bro, like people would just be saying names.
No, it's just weed.
I'm like, yeah, exactly. Just give me some weed, man. And now that I've been getting into it more, and even for a while too, I didn't know. A lot of people don't know what they're getting. When I'm doing PADs and dispensaries and stuff, I'm like, do you know what's in your edible you're eating? They're like, no. And I just taste good.
It's so early. It's such an early level of adoption, and it's so much information. Like, what else are you buying? We have to learn about all these different levels. But I do encourage anyone, listening, or anyone who's going through that experience to really, either engage with the terpenes that you're getting. Like, if you get a flower, like Google it, write down what the terpenes were in it, how it like impacted you. And something we're actually looking at for some of our stores was maybe we'll have like a little journal that we can give to the customers that always come back and are really engaged with their bud tenders and talking about their experience. Because if you start to figure what terpenes give you what effects, that's why I love kind of what you're doing with the brand, saying, hey, we're trying out these different combos, because it is kind of different for individuals. The more you can learn about that, find that combo for you, this is what makes me calm. This is what reduces my anxiety. It is that terpene profile. And if once you recognize that, it's like unlocking a superpower.
Yeah. Totally, I love that. Yeah. And we're just at the infancy of it in so many ways. I know there's countries that are a little ahead of us in terpene research, but we're really gonna get it, man. And
it's a beautiful future ahead.
It really is, man. It really is. So if you're cool, I'd like to kind of I know we've mentioned some of these, but
Yeah,
if you're cool with kind of going through a couple of these
Yeah, we'd love to.
products. So it's so that Sticks on the left there.
Yeah, so Sticks on the left. Sticks is it's a pre-roll brand we have. It's the best-selling pre-roll in Oregon. This is actually one of the blunts. But why I like to kind of bring this up is really what we focus on in the Sticks experience is consistency. So we have a patented process we use for how we mill the flower, and we kind of engage in the actual rolling of the pre-roll. We do a ton of them. I think we're coming up on 3 million of them total now. We did the same thing with the blunts and kind of ran through it. And we just want to make sure that every time you buy a pre-roll that you're getting an experience that that you believe in. So these are huge in Oregon. We sell a decent amount in California as well. And I'm super excited about it. And just also, again, having that consistent experience, because that's one of the things that I think when all of us got started in cannabis, nothing was consistent. Now a lot more is, but that was something we really care about with that brand.
Yeah, I like that a lot. And the roll on it felt nice too.
Yeah.
It feels really nicely rolled.
And then so kind of rolling down, we have the Unrivaled Flower right next to it. And so again, that's kind of our high end 30% plus testing flower.
Oh, shit. Banana macaroon. I've never had this.
Yeah, it's one of my favorites. It's with the we have our own grows, then we have 2 or 3 partners that we've kind of worked with for the long term, and that's from one of our partners that's done a few of the like they did our Utopia Haze and our Red Dragon, which are really popular, and they also do our Banana Mac.
Nice. Little side note: is there like kind of backstory on the logo or the
there is
artwork?
Yeah, so Korova is cow in Russian. And so it kind of attaches to that, but there's a lot of lore behind the brand from the Clockwork Orange story, and so it was just something that the original founders of Korova and the people on the team were really into and kind of leaned into, and sort of became ubiquitous as a symbol for high potency when in the beginning of the industry, and we've kept with. And looking now, there's different rules in all the different states, so hey, we can't have that same cow in Oregon. In Washington, you can't have any animal.
Oh,
so
really?
There's
That's
a whole
trippy. Yeah.
Well, and then you'll see as we look at some of the other products.
I had no idea.
This is the shipper for our extracts, where we have what we call the trippy cow, which is the cow without any human features. And so we found our way to kind of keep the brand together and keep that identity and play over time.
That's a smart move right there. Yeah, sure.
Yeah, and then this is just an extension. This is what it comes like our extracts come in when they come to a store. It's just one of these kind of shippers, and so just a little bit of kind of the behind the scenes of everything that happens in the brand. We want to make sure everything has that branded experience. It feels premium across the board, like the cow print and the spot gloss, just making sure we kind of permeate the brand through whether that experience is on the back end for an inventory person checking it in, or a bud tender putting it on the floor, or a consumer taking it home. We want to establish that consistency.
And that's awesome. Then that you guys can do that too, especially, having that whole vertical integration and having that power, because, just hearing like horror stories from, buyers and stuff, and shipments coming in, and they just don't want to mess with the brand again. Like, okay, that was some good shit, but I spent like 2 hours figuring out how to tag it and whatnot. So like that's the big key to the game.
We've all been through that. Any brand that's been around for long enough has had its ups and downs, kind of been through the ringer, and then now you learn from all those experiences and you try to put out consistent things in the market.
And
all right, so and this is the black bottle I mentioned before, so the 1,000 milligram tincture that has a CBN mix in it that's nano emulsified. So I love that product. It's a great seller
Dragon
for us.
blood, I love it.
Yeah, we're switching to it's a dragon fruit flavor, so it's kind of the name on that. I think we're updating it to a more just sleep focused, just because it ended up it's become popular kind of outside of Korova's kind of core high potency demographic is people who want a great sleep tincture. There isn't anything out there that's kind of that potent, that effective, nano emulsified with a good flavor on the market. So I think we've carved out a bigger niche than some of our products traditionally would do. And so we're gonna kind of mainstreamify the branding a little bit on that one.
Yeah, I would say you guys are the biggest mover for sure, right? Of that category, right? Of the potency moving.
Yeah.
Yeah, damn.
And it's funny, sometimes people look at it as a small category, like, oh, who wants 1,000 milligram products, 100 milligram single products, and it's a lot more people than you think, especially because your tolerance rises as time goes on. Like I talk about my wife's experience a lot, where she started off with the canned drinks at like 2 milligrams, and then all of a sudden it's a 5 milligram drink, then it's a 10 milligram drink. Like it kind of comes over time, and so the high potency crowd is only growing. As everyone kind of gets introduced to it, is eventually, if your cannabis becomes a significant part of your lifestyle, potency is going to be a part of that.
Yeah, and I totally agree. And I do run into people all the time when I'm in dispensaries doing the PADs. They're like, yeah, we just want something stronger. We want something more potent. And I've always been a big fan of, like, I used to take a lot of like the level blends, pro tabs. I used to take a bunch of different THC capsules and whatnot. And this is like that in a way of what my goal was always to try to pack the biggest punch in the smallest amount.
Well, that's what
For the
people
longest
would
time.
ask.
Yeah.
You know, it's when we had the 1,000 milligram black bar for a long time. Everyone, once we couldn't do that by regulation anymore, because basically the regulation changed, we could only do 100 milligram packages, and so we went to kind of mini cookies, and everyone was always asking, when's the black bar coming back? When's the black bar coming back? And before we did the Delta 8 bar, it was just like, okay, what can we put 1,000 milligrams into? And you know, tinctures is one of the things that allows it. And so we've always been kind of look at, okay, within the parameters that we have, how can we do something that our consumer wants?
Yeah, it's finding that, because I've seen some beverages make that move too. Well, they'll have like they call it a tincture, but it's
yeah. Heavy hitters had that.
Yeah,
great. I love that little alcohol looking thing they did. Yeah,
and that's another one. They did a great job with that whole release. I like how it says like say hello to my little friends, and it's talking about the terps. It's kind of cool on the packaging.
Yeah, it's beautiful. It tastes great. It's it's just it's like $226 or something like that. So that's the I think we're trying to provide those experiences, and I get it. Just like we're doing with our hot sauce, you want to put out products that are exciting in the market, get people excited. There's still consumers out there, no matter what the price point is. But since so much of our demographic is, okay, I do want to bang for a buck, or I am using this medically, and I'm really concerned about what the cost is. We still want to have that affordability level in there too.
Yeah, the whole and I'm guilty of it too, of course. Like the whole bargain shopping in a way is an interesting piece of the industry, right?
Yeah.
Like with tons of BOGOs and whatnot. But I know I'm guilty. If I'm going into a dispensary and somebody's like, "Oh, this is buy one get one." By the way, speaking of that, I'm on your guys' email for your downtown shop that just opened a month ago, right?
Yeah.
Peoples. And I'm on there, and I know you guys got a bunch of good deals going on this month. I think it was like select eighths for 35.
Yeah, well, really, downtown we're competing against the black market in downtown. There's black market shops within the block of our downtown. There's 3 to 4 black market shops that are popping, and so really, it's a whether, even though it means lower margins for us and it's more complicated, it's like if we want to compete, we have to have kind of prices and things in that same range, and you're competing against people that don't pay taxes, and so it won't always be like that. And we, obviously a lot of people come in the industry from the black market, and so there's always going to be some level of relationship that's there, and so we have to do what we can to compete, especially in that LA area where it's rampant. So we do have great deals there at the People's Downtown LA dispensary, and it's a cool event location too. We have a bunch of things going on for the Super Bowl this weekend where people can come watch and things like that, and so we're trying to do what we can to work within the parameters we have to be successful.
Nope. And then you guys got, so there's another one, and I know you guys got this the spot in Santa Ana, right?
Yeah.
Is the other People's in Santa Ana?
The other People's in Santa Ana. So our the People's, the mega store is in Orange County. It's right off the freeway there, and so that's just tons of people coming into that store every day. The spot is also in Santa Ana, but it's like a headier store. We're a big 710 Labs provider. Lots of concentrates, lots of kind of exotic flower, really good happy hour. So we get a lot more of the crowd that really cares about cannabis. And People's is more, we get all walks of life in there. It's right off the freeway. It's beautiful, clean, a store that feels like a really modern experience. So you get people that really want to feel comfortable in their cannabis experience. We get a lot of them that come to People's. It's, again, all walks of life. Whereas the spot, people are coming and say, "Oh, I want this specific concentrate. Oh, I know these guys have the fire." We have the People's Downtown LA, and we have 2 stores in Northern California. We have a store in Oakland called Bloom, which is great, right there in the middle, right off Telegraph in Oakland. Another store in San Leandro, and we have a delivery service called Silver Streak in Sacramento. So we've got a whole range of stores out there.
And this might be a little side tangent, but what's kind of the process of deciding on a retail location? Is there a team behind it, or is it is it just licensing in the area?
Yeah, so basically, 2 things happen. If you're starting a new location, it's licensing in the area, and licensing in those areas a lot of the times comes down to where does the city or the municipality that you're in want you to be, and they'll have green zones or really specific areas they want to build up, which is why you see a lot of dispensaries in like industrial areas or areas where they want to bring revenue or jobs or people living or to that area, or they're saying, hey, we want to keep cannabis away from the suburbs, let's put it right here. So you see that in some cases, but then also you see some areas that are kind of more open. And so, but location is everything, just like it is in any business. Location, right? And so that People's location being right off a major freeway, and there's a ton of dispensaries in Santa Ana, but fewer is visible, is just naturally something that is amazing. And that's what we look at too. We look at our footprint of all the different stores we have, and when we're selecting, hey, we want to buy a store or open a store, there's people that are concentrated in a couple different areas. One of my favorite chains to shop at is Haven in Long Beach, and they've got kind of this whole, they're kind of all over California now, but they have a ton of stores in that area, and they really are just a destination for anyone in that area. They know them, they know there's one nearby. Our strategy's been more, hey, we want to be all across California. If you're having, whether you're in Northern California or Southern California, we want to be able to have our hands on the pulse of the culture. We want to be able to kind of put things out and reach consumers across everywhere. And and we want to kind of make sure that, our brands and our vision and the experience we're trying to do can reach as many people as possible. And, every company has a different approach, but that's how we've looked at it.
Sweet, sweet. And when you're saying that, it makes me think, and I should know this when I was looking stuff up more. Do you guys do direct to consumer from your website?
We don't. So we're partnered with Amuse, with Korova. So Amuse fulfills a delivery for the Korova brand, and they're a great partner, for that, like on the Korova website. And then but we don't do any kind of direct to consumer ourselves.
Okay, so so people can go on your website, order, and then it'll be fulfilled through Amuse.
Exactly.
Okay,
So they have a huge, great footprint. And then same thing with Humble Farms, and they are really prominent through Grassdoor and through Ease. It's kind of different by brands, but Korova's DTC stores with Amuse has been a perfect partner. It's because they really understood the brand. They built out an experience that worked for it. They altered some of, it looks different than the rest of their website, and are able to reach kind of all those different zip codes. And that's a business that they've excelled at. We have enough product development, our existing dispensaries, we have enough things going on without trying to master DTC as well. And so seeing some of the people like Amuse and Grassdoor do it super well, and we rather lean into those partners who are doing things, A+.
Dope, dope. Now, when you're in these other states, you mentioned a couple interesting things to me, like in particular, like the cow, like you can't have animals, or you mentioned a 2,000 milligram bar in what state was
Oklahoma. Arizona too.
So is that the max you can have out there?
That's the max. And so, it's also, those are medical only products. So they have a recreational tier and a medical tier, and they have different caps accordingly. And Oklahoma's only medical, Arizona's medical and recreational, and they have kind of different setups. And that's what's interesting about this, right? Is every state is different. The rules and compliance are different. The logos on the packaging, you'll see a California logo, on here, you have to have an Oregon logo in Oregon. And so keeping track of all that is tough. And then also just waiting for, when federal regulation hits, is there going to be a federal rules on top of that? Are people going to all conform to the same rules? It's a really hard industry to predict. And that's part of what makes it exciting. But also when you're in a business our size, we're projected to be, in the 100 million plus this year in terms of revenue. You're trying to keep all these things in mind as you plan to grow a business of that size is very complicated.
Yeah, and that's what I've thought too. I was like, I could see it being stressful in that regard, where it's like you're building this, all of a sudden federal could come in and say something crazy. And then, but I imagine if, it is what it is. Yeah.
And we do a lot of scenario planning. So, because you can't just say, it's going to be, whatever happens. We have to kind of, we look, that was what it was for a while. But again, at this size, we have to be like, all right, so if federal legalization happens, interstate commerce is allowed. Here's the basic level of our plan. If federal legalization happens, but you can't be vertically integrated. Okay, here's how our focus would be. Like, all these are things that could potentially happen. And we have to at least have a couple bullet points of what our strategy is for each, and then kind of change those as time goes on, as we get better at the things, or our business model changes, we're making new acquisition, or new things come up in different states. And again, it's challenging, but I feel like that's the best way to look at it is, what are these scenarios? How we adapt it? How does that change over time? And just make sure we're prepared to work through it.
Yeah, that's it's nice that you guys are ahead of it. Like you said, at your size, you got to be, ready for everything, and at the drop of a pen, ready to.
Yeah, it's a lot, but that's what's exciting. Is and then just knowing you're building it's all about building a culture where it's going to be chaotic. People are naturally resistant to change. This industry is changing extremely dramatically, especially California cannabis. Like, products, you've been in it. Products have been so refined they're coming so fast, and the trends have changed faster than any other industry. So being able to keep up with that, plus the federal, you just have to build a group of people and a culture that are saying, all right, whatever it is, sign me up for it. We're going to do it, and then people who are confident enough in their ideas, knowing, hey, guess what? We may get some of these things wrong, but we have to act. And so that's kind of what we focus on every day. And I think we've built the right group who's working through that right now.
I definitely agree with you too. And like with your brand, so when you're looking at a brand, let's say you're looking at XYZ brand in the future, what sticks out to you? What are you kind of looking for? The brand staying true to the culture, obviously, with Korova being a big one like that. What else is important to you?
Like legacy brands are really interesting. Where brands have been around for a while, just because it's especially in California, where we've had 10 years of from gray area to where we are today of cannabis being legal in some way. Is if people know them, if people have a nostalgic feeling or an excitement when they hear the name, like, that's really important, because a cannabis consumer today is likely a cannabis consumer for life. And so just them having that affiliation with the brand when there's so many new brands trying to break in is something we've kind of really centered around. Is like, all right, let's take people who have real stories and kind of real narratives, and who have kind of authentic roots, and maybe they've had ups and downs. but we know that customers know them. We know that they've been through all these kind of trials. So we feel that's really important to us. And then also, do they know what their demographic is and what they're doing, what differentiates them? Like when it comes to Korova, if someone's asked me what's the difference, like, hey, it's a high potency focused brand. Whenever we go into any category, we're trying to be just a little more potent than somebody else. Same thing with sticks. We're trying to be, we want to mass produce and we want to be as consistent as possible. Like, what are those differentiators? And I think if a brand has a story, has differentiators, and I think that's interesting. But product market fit is also the big one. Like, is it something that consumers try and then want to try again? And I think that a lot of companies are still finding that, because the industry as an overall, consumers are still trying to find what's the perfect cannabis experience for me. I think it's going to take a couple of years for that to kind of fully set in, and some of those experiences may not even be developed yet.
Yeah, the whole and just the array of experiences and the different ones you can have, like we're saying, from edibles to tinctures to beverages, straight flower,
all the cannabinoids, all the terpene profiles.
And that's what I need to do my due diligence on now. Is I've been saying it for a while. I just need to get a Puffco and dive more into concentrates, because I've just been such a flower head my whole life, an edible guy. But I just, so many of my friends smoke it. I'll take dabs with them, but it's just like a more refined experience in that way. And then you can also hit that super potency with that too. So I'm curious what you guys got here.
So we do. So we have we do have a concentrates line that we're really proud of. And so we do both cured concentrates and we do live resin concentrates. And so a lot of this for us was just about kind of matching up the strains and these kind of like trying to find unique, interesting strains, interesting terp profiles that our customers would love, and just making it a reliable experience. So our top two movers inside the concentrate category are batter, which is just like we found the right consistency. They're super terpy, and so I think consumers really, really like it. And then shatter is also really big for us, which is just more of a kind of a throwback experience to kind of early cannabis. And we found a way to kind of since cured extracts are made from trim, we're using some of the it's the same material that's coming from our flour that's actually being put into those, so the strains are able to match up, the experiences are able to match up. So you can say, hey, I love Korova's Gizmo, I love their Red Dragon, I love their Alien Blackout, whatever it is. I can have that same experience in a concentrate in a way that, if you want to do that in a live resin standpoint, then you're having to grow entire fields of that genetic, which might not be good in the fresh frozen form, or there's a kind of whole bunch of logistics that come with it. But and we actually did something on the potency play. We did what we called Diamond Shatter, which was just super high THC, like it was almost white.
That's just crazy when you see that stuff.
And it was like one of those where it was hard for us to get it right consistently. And when we did, we would kind of drop it, and we still kind of work through it when we have it right. But we're always trying to find that way, like working with the labs to kind of push the limit on what's interesting. But yeah, concentrates is where a lot of the consumers graduate to. Like I love the concentrate experience. I've had bad luck with my Puffcos. Like all of them have broken. I'm not the kind of guy who can repair that. They cost a lot of money. I'm not going to consistently work through those issues, but I'm sure that user experience will get better in a few years. But it's just a really pure form of cannabis. It's funny. Like I feel like taking a small dab is more like drinking a nice coffee than than getting really high. It's a really interesting experience. And I think that all these things are going to be, consumers will be much more approachable as the form factors change. Because whenever someone whips out a torch, inherently 90% of people are like, I don't know if this is for me.
Have you guys I think I saw one of the brands apart from Korova does vapes. Have you guys ever dove into the vape world with Korova?
We do. We have a lineup of vapes that mostly we sell within our own stores, but that have kind of a really specific strain lineup that we're really proud of. It kind of matches some of our original flower lineup, but it's not a huge category for us. We are we've tried a lot of products, tried a little things on the market, and I think that we know there's people who just have an incredible vape experience. That's not something we could replicate, and we obviously have a lot of SKUs already, so it's not something we're taking super seriously.
Yeah, I think it's still on like the rise, vaping, but I also feel like it's an interesting time. Myself, I've noticed vape way less, but I've seen too, I feel like when I'm just in stores, people buying less vapes and whatnot. Yeah, it's an interesting market.
I will post the kind of vape crisis. Yeah. It dipped significantly. We kind of I look at the mix in our stores, how much percent of what changes. It's actually gotten back up now to about similar to what it was prior. What excites me about the vape category now is I think it's changing a little bit to almost what the e-vapes are like. There's a brand called Superb, SUPHERB, that has these big tank vapes. They have like a live resin vape in that with like a big battery with the multiple controls. It looks almost like one of the larger kind of e-cigarette rigs. And we see a lot of kind of the headier customers in the shop who are kind of really into the cannabis, like leaning more to that. And I really like that approach. I think that really being able to customize your high and the temperature of it, and these vapes where it's like big enough tanks you can kind of get a big cloud is going to be interesting for that more a really high-end consumer. But then we see a lot too where, for a new generation of cannabis that didn't grow up smoking it and only having the weed flavor available, for them, vape and Juul is like synonymous with the cannabis experience. And I think that's why Stizzy and some of these brands have done so well, is they've had this perfect, like Stizzy has perfect product market fit, right? Their customer loves their product, and it's exactly right for them. The battery experience is right, the flavor experience is right, and I think that's the kind of thing that vape allows that any other category still has to figure out, and it has a lot more time where they're going to actually have to engineer that to get there.
Yeah. Yeah. And well, that's a super good point too about just in terms of the popularity, because so many people, even when I go back home and I see my like younger sister over the past years and her friends like vaping, Juuls or whatever. Yeah. It's crazy how many people you see, how many people have a vape on them at all. Do you vape nicotine?
No, I don't. And I've never even really been in the cannabis vapes either. I really like the 710 Labs HTE one, but again, I'm not like consuming. It's great if you're the kind of person who's consuming all day, and I can't like keep up with the job and also do that. And so, but I think if you are that, like the vape is the right experience there.
So you're kind of an end of the day type consumer.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm the same way, except working in beverage. I will say I have started to do more microdosing, more stuff like I had here, or just little bits. Because I was kind of not a hater, but I was kind of a doubter in microdosing for a while, just having less potency. I'm like, there's no way I'm gonna feel it. But the more I get into it, like you were saying, messing with the terpene profiles and stuff is interesting. That what you can really feel, it gives you the little upbeatness or maybe a little focus, whatever it is. It could be interesting with the lower potency plays.
Yeah, I use the sports recovery products like pretty actively. Like Buddies has a roll-on, and Pop on Barkley's has a cream that I use a ton. That's something that's great in the mornings. I don't feel high from it. I just feel relief from soreness or from working out or any of that kind of stuff, or just soreness from getting old. And that is and I think that is a really interesting. Like I love that kind of experience where I'm getting some relief. I'm not getting super high, and that's something like that I can kind of do in the morning. It's interesting throughout the day. The microdose thing is interesting. I know a lot of people that have experimented with that a lot, saying, hey, I want to keep 1 to 2 milligrams like in my system at all times, and they kind of feel naturally looser and stuff. I haven't experimented with it. I just don't have the right work-life balance to be able to kind of play around. But I think that's interesting for people that are trying to, hey, I want to be a little more creatively in the pocket. I want to be a little more kind of looser throughout the day and a little more lucid. Is kind of playing with that. Hey, I'm not getting super high. I'm just keeping that going. And you can with edibles or capsules or the drinks like you're mentioning. There's a lot of opportunity for that.
Yeah, it's super fun, interesting time. Like you said, it's exciting, man. And, just the passion behind it that goes into it. And you guys must have, how many, I mean, I guess you have a bunch of brands, under you. How many like workers do you guys have?
We're about 350.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's a lot. Yeah.
Nice. And are you based in the LA area, or are you up north?
I'm in Orange County. We're in LA all the time. We have a distribution center in LA. We have a store in LA. So I'm here all around. But we have, coming up on 10 facilities, and so we're always running around.
Yeah, you're on the road, huh? Yeah. Popping all around, man.
Yeah, but that's good. We want to make sure we're understanding what's happening, because that's a big part of it. Is you see if you're a decision maker in a cannabis company, with how fast things are going, if you're not connected with what's happening, actually like in the dispensaries or in the cultivation or what the consumer's feeling, you could fall behind so quick. Like a quarter is an eternity in cannabis with how fast things are turning.
And to that point, I think that's very important from my perspective with newer brands starting out is, I think a lot of brands want to start out, get their product in stores, and like the underestimated thing is that brand support, whether it's a sales rep or an ambassador being in there, like pounding the pavement and just talking to people face to face about the products, I think is kind of an underestimated piece for some brands that are coming to the market.
I totally agree. And then also, how do you build on that? What we've started to see recently as we bring new brands into the stores is consumers are always trying to try something new. They're asking the budtenders for recommendations. There's more discovery in the cannabis industry than almost any other industry that you can think of. You're not going to the bar and saying, what new whiskey do you have, right? Like you're picking, you say, hey, this is the thing I always drink, or give me a well drink, or give me top shelf, whatever. And so I think a lot more of that happens in cannabis. But so you'll get new brands that come in, they see some success because they'll get in some dispensaries, there'll be a new exciting thing, but then consumers are on to the next thing. They're saying, okay, well, what's my new thing? And then are you keeping up with that? And we've had to juggle that with always trying to put out new products and new experiences that are talking points, get people excited, but also making sure that there's a core business there of the things that are sold all the time. That's why you see Korova have so many. We have a Delta 8 bar, there's a hot sauce. Like these things come, they go, and they're part of just making it an interesting experience for anyone who walks in the dispensary or consumers researching online, and just kind of staying top of mind.
Yeah, you have the staples to keep you, and then you can experiment more. And I like what you said too about how in your retail locations, you might have like the vapes or like
Yeah.
some particular. Do you do that with other certain strains of the flower? And
Yeah, it's a great place to try things, right? And
Okay.
say, okay, hey, we want to see if this SKU works. Or we also know if we put something else out in the market, and say, hey, we've put this Delta 8 thing out. If it doesn't work, we can always say, all right, let's double down on our stores. Let's refocus on what the messaging is. Let's make sure that we have that value proposition right, and let's try it again. Those are all kind of useful tools in the market to be able to make sure we're understanding what we're doing. We're making intelligent decisions.
Yeah, the Delta 8 things, I really need to like do some more research, experiment with it more.
Yeah.
Because I don't know a whole lot about it really. Like in terms of like, I've taken some gummies and stuff and I was impressed how high I got.
Yeah.
Like, cause I was like, oh, this is not going to be like that.
Yeah.
But then I wondered too, I'm like,
I made that mistake.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's kind of crazy because it's legal in however many states and can be like shipped around. So people are always hitting me up like, hey, you want to promote this Delta 8 product gummy, whatever. I'm like, no, not really. I don't really know it. So almost not.
Yeah, well, there's also a difference too between like the hemp derived stuff and then still the cannabis derived, and just kind of, and also the things that have been COA'd and what you're just going to get buying Delta 8 at the gas station in Texas versus what you're getting from like lab tested stuff in California. But we find it's a super reliable body high. I think I mentioned those Wonder drinks earlier, Wonder with a U. They have a kind of a good mix of THC and Delta 8. And what I found that versus other drinks is I'm not looking for really heady highs. Usually I'm looking for like just like body relaxation, and it works really well. I think there's maybe 2 or 4 milligrams of Delta 8 in there, and it works well for that. But like that 1,000 milligram Delta 8 bar, if you have a piece of that, it's a really heavy body experience. And so it's very different than THC, and it will get you really high just in a different way. But that's why we're still just at like just the very, very beginning of like, what are those perfect combos? How are those perfect combos personalized for your experience versus my experience? Like all that's coming down the road.
Well, and thank you for that, for helping get me on my Delta 8
Yeah,
game.
you're about to be on the journey, brother. Yeah.
Well, that's what's so interesting too, is just, the biochemistry. Everybody, or edibles don't affect me, or whatever it is, it's super interesting, like you're saying, to formulate too. And it just takes everybody doing the testing themselves in their own way. Like you're saying, have your notes, like, oh, I really like this. Forever, I would just smoke so much like Jack Herrera strains, or like I used to smoke sativa, was like all I used to really enjoy for a while. I mean, I loved indicas at night, but now I find myself smoking way more OGs and whatnot. But it's interesting the way, like you're saying earlier, you progress too.
Yep.
I think this is part of building a tolerance. I think I've heard from bud tenders and stuff too, is a lot of people start out sativa smokers and then they want the more complex high.
Yep.
That
And
the
they end up
OGs
in their
can
indica
offer.
hybrid line, or
Yeah.
they end up in their full indica. You're totally right.
And like I was saying earlier, there's a time and a place for every one of those. I think.
Yeah, I'm still a strong sativa guy, but everyone's different. I'm high energy, as you can probably tell.
I love it because I'm the same way. And with that's interesting too. And I've talked about this before, is like, I feel like it's interesting. Sativas kind of get a bad rap. Like recently in the past years, it's like, oh, I only smoke OG, bro, or whatever, which is cool. No hate on that. But at the same time, I feel, and that's why I got too excited about the landrace strains that you guys are doing, bringing that.
But we noticed that's changed, because we noticed the same exact thing. It was definitely like indica hybrids was everything for about a year and a half. But then in Q4, we look at our store data all the time. And in Q4, like sativas had risen about like 13% in our mix. And so I think, and whether that's, usually we'd see them spike in the summer, everyone's outside, but now this is the winter time. And this is kind of changing. I think I think it's just people really looking for like that diversity and experience, right? It's like, all right, I have this thing for this, I have this thing for that.
It's so cool that you guys are as big as you are, and you can really hone in on that data.
Yeah.
And like,
it's exciting to look at. And just be like, what's actually happening is we want to engage with it, right?
And is flower the biggest mover in general? For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's you see that for the foreseeable future. I don't see
completely.
And what's your thought on chocolates? Because I feel like chocolates have been on a turn for a while.
When gummies came up, baked goods, and obviously we were a big baked goods brand, so this impacted us. Like gummies cut down on baked goods, they cut down on chocolate, and now both of them are a fraction of what they were. And then the drinks category kind of expanded a little bit. Now it seems like gummies have stabilized. It seems like the edibles category kind of is where it is, where you have like gummies is the majority of it, baked goods and chocolate are kind of a much smaller proportion, and then drinks are about the size of chocolate and baked goods combined.
And I think having like the OG black bar, is gonna be too, like the nostalgia coming back too, because I feel like gummies have hit the market so hard that people are just eating so many gummies, and it's just people. I want that, that old I want that classic cookie. I want that classic brownie, because I know I found myself recently. I bought chocolate for the first time recently, and I bought some those Dr. Norm's little cookies. I never had them before, but I found myself venturing out when I've been eating a lot of gummies and tablets and shit.
Well, I think it just becomes a lot of it's about the progression of a user coming into a dispensary, because especially with older customers, they'll come in and they'll be like, I want some CBD. Explain to me CBD. I want something for my hurt shoulder, and then they'll progress to, I want something to help me sleep. And 90% of the time, the bud tender will recommend you a CBN gummy, right? And they're like, oh, this really works. And I'm taking this for a while. Now it's a part of my routine. I want to keep taking this thing that works, since they're just taking CBN gummies consistently. And then it's like, oh, I want something fun. And then, it's, you see that progression. But gummies are kind of the easiest tool for that. Because even with a tincture, like I think the tincture is a way better experience for sleep, but it's still hard to approach for a new user. You're like, oh, I got to dose it. There's a dropper. It's how many milligrams are in this thing? It's like, there's a lot of that. Whereas gummies have just made that consistent. And then like the sugar and calories is another thing as well, where people go, I just want to take something. I don't have to worry about, oh, I'm gonna get a sugar spike before bed, or, like it's the gummies are just such an easy experience for that sleep need in particular, that I think is just such a huge chunk of what cannabis customers, especially new cannabis customers, are looking for, that it really makes sense.
Yeah, I think you hit that on the head there, because sleep is a huge one for me. That's why I started doing edibles, tinctures, all the making my own edibles and stuff, because it just helps me knock out.
Same as, and versus melatonin or anything that leaves you kind of hungover in the morning, right? Like it's an incredible experience. It's life changing for a lot of people. Even like especially if you're taking a medication to sleep, a pharmaceutical, versus taking a cannabis, how much better you're gonna feel. Like that's a huge difference in your day to day life.
Yeah, you can really tell. You wake up rested, and it's cool to have people try that for the first time, and come into your retail stores, and all of a sudden, like you're saying, they're a repeat customer that came in for sleep, and now they're getting like a crazy nice blunt.
And we're just getting started on that journey too. Like I think we talk a lot about how do we help people along that journey, and is it like, hey, do we have like, or is it a written book that we're helping you with, or are we trying to keep a more accurate log in their customer profile? Like how do we really help that? Because that's the experience people are looking for. It's a more consultative experience than almost anything that you're buying, besides maybe a car. It's like really like they're really getting help again and again and again every time that you come in. People build affinity with their bud tenders, and we're just beginning what that experience looks like. And so that's something that we've kind of really honed in on over the next few years, is like, how do we become amazing at that?
Yeah, that's a great point too, because I see so much too. People come in and they'll be like, "Hey, what did I order last time?" And then the people pull up the iPads. It gave me an idea almost if it was synced up to your personal account or something. So you
could see what you ordered.
Yeah, before you went in, like, oh, I was at People's last week. What did I get? Oh, I got the garlic cookies. Word, let me get that.
And that's where I think like delivery companies have just there's so much that they could be doing with that. If you are someone who has an application or has all that kind of data out there, or people are accessing on their phone, being able to combine that with this kind of new personalized like data experience, like I wear a Whoop band and I look at that data all the time. And if you're giving that same data of cannabis, like, hey, even just little things like, did I like this? Did I not like this? Like, a mood slider. And then you say, hey, guess what? You've had 5 things where limonene is the terpene that you've always said yes to, and you're giving you that info. Here's 8 limonene strains.
Yeah, that's
I think that's where we're headed, and that's really exciting.
That's legit. Have you heard of Leaf VIP?
No.
Pretty cool. They do we work with them with Koan, but they do training videos. So you can go on, and it will be for bud tenders, get paid $5 to watch it. They answer before questions and after, and then so that kind of gives also the salespeople to see a pipeline of people. But there's also options for buyers as well. The buyers get paid like $25 per video. And it's free for the dispensaries and stuff. So it's kind of in that vein, but I hadn't seen somebody kind of tackling the education aspect like we're, talking about a bunch today. So it's pretty cool product.
Yeah, it's gonna be interesting.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see the way things go. And that's what I realized when I first started making some videos, and like people would ask for the most simple things, do the best. I'm like, I guess I'll make this video about doing this, and then it like gets people, it gets traction because it's just the simplest thing. Sometimes people just
we're sort of in those earliest stages, and then you know what human nature is like. You feel awkward asking questions that you feel like are dumb, or you feel like, oh, I should know this. But the answer to succeeding in life is asking those questions, not being afraid to reach out, because you're going to get to those answers faster. And so, yeah, I think you can never dumb it down too much.
Yeah, and having the vibe when you walk in the dispensary being open like that, which most are, I'd say, but there's definitely been a handful I've walked in where it's kind of like,
there's plenty of them where it's kind of the other way. And I think that's what we really pride ourselves on people. And we have 2 amazing trainers there. This girl Sarah and Mariah, who have really they take it, they like embody the experience of like, they're always asking. It's not about what is the right experience for the consumer? What are we recommending them? It's going to take them on their journey. It's going to treat their symptoms, and they're prioritizing that constantly. And sometimes that's a dynamic that's complicated within a company where you have a sales goal or you have another, but just knowing that you have core team members that prioritize that and are bringing that throughout the organization is something that we feel is really powerful.
Yeah, I went to a shop the other day, and they do they only do ghost PADs, and this was before COVID even. I know a lot of people were doing it for COVID, but they kind of said a similar thing. They're like, it's we don't. PADs are cool, but we had too many. They're great salesmen that would come in, or ambassadors that would sell the product, but sometimes they felt like their customers weren't getting what they necessarily wanted. Yeah. They were just getting sold. So I thought that was an interesting, you
Well,
know, point
being
of
a
view.
bud tender is also a super hard job because people are coming in and saying, you know, if I'm, our bud tenders, again, it's all walks of life, but people kind of all ages working in there, but a lot of them are in their 20s. They're coming from food service or something, you know, like a similar job. It's an early job for them. And you're getting someone coming in saying, I have osteoporosis. What do you have that can help me? And you're like, oh man, this is heavy. Or, you know, or I have cancer, or I have this type of intense pain. And so being able to both train someone to be able to deal with that, and then also have product suites that you know are going to work, it can be really rewarding if done right and educated, or it can be terrifying if you're like, I'm not equipped to answer these questions.
Yeah. And there's so many products because I know I was bartender for many years and I would have to know if I didn't know the product, I would never really sell it.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm a huge believer in just hooking people up with samples too, as much as possible. But yeah, just like knowing the products. So there's so many in some of these dispensaries. I don't see how somebody
More and more coming on the market.
More and more new fat.
I get surprised because you know I would some of the bud tenders we have just know so much, you know. But you know, you create these kind of modern avenues to do it. And if it's a part of your job and you want to be good at it, then you know you learn it. But that's where it's kind of a combination of the buyers, the management team, the bud tenders, and just saying, okay, knowing, all right, what are the experiences we want to be giving? You know, how are we educating about this? We have a Slack channel in our company, you know, called New and Reviews, where bud tenders kind of review products that they try or samples that they have and share it with others. And like honestly, some of the like listings there are like poetry, like the level of like comprehensiveness that you get, because some of these people really care, and some people who can't write like that or aren't eloquent like that or who don't take training in the same way, but can read something from someone they know and respect and work with every day and kind of take that information in, you can kind of see how much it resonates. So it's just finding those little tools and communities you can use to get that information out there.
For sure. And I'm also a big believer in myself that I'm always a student. Like we're saying, it's been around, but it's a newer space. There's always so much shit to be learned. Like it's
Completely.
literally, you can't learn it all. So
You have to have that approach, because we meet with some of these larger cannabis MSOs or other execs or people where they have these really strong opinions about things. I'm like, you know, not only do I think this is wrong, also I would never have this level of certainty about anything inside the cannabis space, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, the cannabis industry, in a lot of ways, it's like Murphy's Law. Like, you know, it's like just plan on things kind of going sideways and then you'll be all good.
See what happens, yeah. Very true.
Yeah, it's a fun space though, man. It's kind of like nothing else, really.
Yeah, I totally agreed, and happy to be in it.
Now, when you're to kind of break it to your other industry you work in, what was kind of a similarity between the alcohol world, or you know, working with, you know, brands like Ciroc or you know, Red Bull, right? You worked with like
Yeah, so I worked at an agency. We launched Red Bull flavors and Ciroc flavors and, you know, kind of a few other things in New York at the time. You know, then it's about creating a brand and affinity to the brand and people knowing what the brand stands for. But cannabis is honestly really, really, really different. The biggest thing that's similar is just having to work and jump through all these hoops to be able to market them. Saying, hey, we can't run Facebook ads. We can't run Google search ads. We can't put this content out. Just having those limitations. I think that's the most similar. But cannabis is different because, you know, the level of passion is just so much higher.
Word, well, yeah. Thanks, buddy. Yeah, cannabis, man, is and I guess that's so true too. I mean, you meet passionate bartenders, passionate people in that world, but yeah, cannabis, I guess that's the beauty of it. You have people who are passionate about it as a whole and like who are in the business, but even the consumers are so passionate, like they want to know more, curious. And it's funny too to see the different types of customers come in. People know what they want. People want to spend an hour in there. But yeah, man, I just got the sign here to kind of give it a little wrap up, man.
Right. That's been a good talk.
Hey, man, it's been great, man. What's this last thing here? I don't know if we mentioned it. This is the.
Oh yeah, so I had
this one.
a couple. Yeah, so those are gummies. This is kind of 10 count, more kind of standard gummies that we have, and this is a 100 milligram individual cookie. This one's an elote cookie, so it's like a savory corn cookie. We did like kind of a limited.
Hell yeah.
We just again just trying to keep different flavors, keep it fresh, different little packages. Yeah, little 10 count of gummies, but yeah, probably the simplest of the products we talked about.
Cool, man. Cool. Yeah, thanks again for taking the time to come to the studio, man. And I'm definitely gonna be repping this and doing some videos on it, showing some love, man.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Good to have it. Good conversation.
Hey, thank you, Oren. Appreciate you, brother.
Thanks.